why is it that a few years, plural, after the Hummer EV launched, is this thing just getting cooler and cooler, whereas the Tesla Cybertruck just isn't? All right, now cool is in the eye of the beholder, but sales numbers are not. And the Hummer EV just had its best month ever a few years after it launched. It's kind of unheard of in the car industry, whereas the Cybertruck isn't doing much in terms of sales. Let's get right into it. Very few vehicles, period, had as much hype around them as the Hummer did when this thing went on sale at the end of 2021, but more realistically, started 2022. These things were crazy. I remember folks flipping these were getting well over $200,000, and celebrities like Ashton Kutcher were lining up to buy them left and right. I mean, they were the hot thing to have. But much like planking or the Harlem Shake, the shine quickly wore off this apple. And that's because early Hummers just had issues, right? They had build quality issues, they had software problems. We bought an early Hummer that quite famously left us stranded in the middle of an intersection.
Why is the software taking such a dump that you can't even open the hood and maybe try to reboot the 12-volt battery? Here's the hood. Yeah, where's the training? Yeah, nothing happens. It's like they sealed the battery hermetically. Very dangerous.
They also, as we quickly found out, just weren't very good off-road. Software bugs and some design issues meant that they were huge and ponderous, and they got kind of stuck more easily than they should have.
A little slippage there, but a little bit more slippage. Brakes are working, suspension's working. And that's the thing, when you take the suspension, one pedal drive unavailable. Wonder why that is. Oh, probably because I'm in off-road mode. 4-wheel drive unavailable, schedule service. It just died.
It took General Motors just 32 months to develop the Hummer EV. 2.5 years, that's typically less than half of the amount of time it takes General Motors to develop any new product. And to be honest, it kind of showed. In 2023, something interesting happened. You see, we got a call from GM and they said, come on out to Moab, Utah. We have something interesting to show you. So my dad drove on out to Utah and there was a Hummer, and it was different because it was orange. But that's not what made it better. You see, GM had refreshed the Hummer, and not a lot of people know this, but they made a tremendous number of changes to the Hummer a couple of years ago. And it wasn't just the paint. They went through and they tweaked the software, they tweaked the hardware, and it was so much better, not only off-road, but from a livability standpoint. They had fixed a ton of issues. They really had listened to the issues and the problems that consumers had with the early Hummers, and they made it better, a lot better. Clear the underside on that big old rock. Wow. That's a gnarly obstacle, and with that suspension all the way up, it just walked right through that. We haven't had any issues with the air suspension overheating. We haven't had any issues with the locker engagement, with any of the screens glitching. It has been seamless. And GMC is not done with the Hummer yet. You see, they are still at work coming out with new special editions and software tweaks, hardware tweaks. For example, this 2026 Hummer EV now comes as a carbon edition with these, well, truly ridiculous, if I'm being honest, 22-inch carbon fiber wheels. But they've also given it the last thing it needed, more power. We're looking at 1,164 horsepower, which means that this massive truck will do 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. GM says 2.8 seconds from 0 to 60. Now, this is all a little silly in my mind. Should a Hummer have carbon fiber wheels? Maybe not, but it is proof that General Motors is still pumping investment in this thing to keep it interesting and keep it fresh.
Climate Exchange is hosting their 10th annual EV giveaway, and in celebration of this milestone, they're hosting 2 EV giveaways with 2 chances to win your dream EV. If you're looking at your dream top-of-the-line vehicle, take a shot at their Luxury Raffles grand prize. The prize is any EV on the market, or even 2, up to $120,000. Or if luxury isn't your thing, but you still want to go electric, they've introduced an even more affordable mini raffle where the prize is any EV up to $45,000. And like always, they cover all the taxes on the EVs they give away. Better yet, the luxury raffle tickets purchased by October 30th will also be entered into their early bird drawing for $10,000 on October 31st. Climate Exchange is a non-profit powering state-level solutions to climate change, and their work is more important than ever this year. So please consider supporting this crucial cause while also getting the chance to win your dream EV. Buy your tickets today at carbonraffle.org/TFLEV.
This thing is fast. It's ridiculously fast. It's probably too fast if we're being honest. It's kind of like an avalanche, right? Do you know an avalanche can move at speeds of up to 200 miles an hour? And they also weigh 1,000 tons just like this thing. But GM has also updated a bunch of other things and added some cool features to these Hummer EVs. Like they now do bi-directional charging, both vehicle to vehicle, but also vehicle to home, which I think is really, really cool. Now I know that there is a lot you can criticize with the Hummer EV. Does anybody really need an 8,000 plus pound electric truck that goes 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds? No. Is it ridiculously big and a little much? Absolutely. So there are granted very fair criticisms to the overall shape and profile of the Hummer. But it's also just darn cool, right? This is a Tonka toy for adults. We live in an era where every new car I drive is some variant of the same small crossover blob with the same 2-liter turbocharged engine and a very similar all-wheel drive system. And then General Motors launches this massive brick that looks like it's straight out of a Fast and Furious movie, and then they stuck it in a Barbie movie, and they said, yeah, you can buy that, that's fine. That is awesome. I know it's ridiculous, I know it's too much, I know it's way over the top and ostentatious, and there's very valid criticism to whether or not this is a useful object for humanity, but it's also just the coolest, darndest, biggest toy in the toy box. And then we come to the inside, and once again, General Motors just went nutso with the inside of this car. You see, typically, within a family of cars, let's say General Motors as a whole, you are going to see pretty big similarities within like the GMC line. So a Terrain and an Acadia are going to share very similar interior cues. Same thing with the trucks, right? And then you come in here and they threw away the whole rule book on how to design an interior. So you have these crazy Art Deco 1930s style pillars that are the vents in this inset dashboard. And then they said, should we put red on the inside? Yeah, why not? Should we give it removable panels? Sure. Should we make them glass? Absolutely. Should we tint the glass so they look a little sneaky? Yeah, let's do that. Should we put some crazy topographical maps on the speaker grates and then give it these cool toggle switches across the middle? This doesn't really feel like a General Motors interior, except for the terrible seats, which are still flat as park benches. Come on, General Motors. You do all this great work on the inside, and then you put the same crappy old seat that you've been using in GM trucks for the last 20 years on the inside. Actually, I'd prefer the seat from 30 years ago. Those were awesome. But the ones from 20 years ago, the flat bench things, they're still around. So, there's a lot of really, really cool things in here, except for the seats. And it's just once again, it's a whimsical interior. This whole truck, it's whimsical. It's meant to be fun. Is it practical? No. Is it small in here for the size of the truck? Yeah, it's the size of an apartment building, and it's not that big in here. But it's just a fun, kind of exciting place to be. The really interesting thing about these Hummer EVs is that they just keep selling more and more of them, or at least they're maintaining strong sales numbers. Typically you have model launches and then there's a big amount of sales the first year and it quickly dies down, but the Hummer is staying flatlined, or in some cases even climbing in popularity, which is pretty nuts. Now in contrast, the arguably more practical and more useful Tesla Cybertruck sold just 700 more units last month than the big ridiculous Hummer EV. But why? The design of the Cybertruck. The most polarizing part of the Cybertruck is simply the way it looks. And the way it looks is just, it's weird. And I know what the team was going for, I know what Elon was going for, and I appreciate them for trying something very, very different. But it just doesn't really work if you ask me. It kind of looks like someone parked a tent on top of a skateboard. It's just odd and strange and weird, and just not very attractive, I think, to most eyes. And that's one of the fatal flaws of the Cybertruck, is like it's packed full of amazing technology, and I want to love it, love it, love it, and I'd actually like to own one someday. But I just can't get past the way it looks. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people have with the Cybertruck. Now look, there's definitely a stigma surrounding both of these trucks, but the Tesla stigma right now is just not great. Like, you go online and yeah, there is some hate for the kind of ridiculousness of the Hummer EV. That is nothing to the memes I see surrounding Cybertrucks. It's to the point where my wife, that cares nothing at all about cars, gets memes about the Cybertruck on her For You pages. She's never ever going to see that with the Hummer EV, right? So yeah, the Hummer EV does have its haters, but it's nothing in comparison to the stigma that surrounds the Cybertruck. But there's more to the Cybertruck story as to, you know, why maybe it's not much loved by a lot of folks. And I think part of that is just down to the overconfidence that Elon had when he first debuted the Cybertruck all those years ago. That video of it out towing an F-150, and he was so confident that it was going to be the best-selling truck on the planet. And that just, you know, never came to fruition, and it was just kind of embarrassing. And then when Cybertruck started reaching the hands of Tesla fanboys, they hyped it up like crazy. Oh man, the amount of hype. This is the best truck in the world. There's nothing better. It's never ever going to get better. And it was just too much, right? Like, people were like, whoa, dude, this is a lot. Like, let's back down on this a little bit. It's not the second coming. And I think, like, when you hype something up that much and you have a group of people that are that passionate about it, all of a sudden the product is just like, ugh. It's just unappealing in some ways, right? And that never really happened with the Hummer EV. And yeah, sure, there's fanboys of Hummer EVs, and that's cool, but it never got to that point where people were like, you know, waxing poetically about it. And I think that really in some ways hurt the Cybertruck, because the fanboys were just insufferable. Now, it may sound like I'm just a massive Cybertruck hater, but that's really not the case at all. I actually think it's a very innovative product and has a lot of great features. I like how they got rid of the 12-volt system altogether. I like the way it's constructed. I actually like the way it drives. I think it's really cool. The dual motor has mechanical locking differentials. I love the steer-by-wire system. I think the integrated tonneau cover is pretty cool. Like, there's a lot I love about the Cybertruck. But it's kind of got the Google Glass problem. Remember when Google Glass launched all those years ago and it was supposed to be the world changer? And it just looked dorky, right? And then it wasn't cool, right? And you can't bottle cool. And Tesla tried and tried and tried. And then their founder did some things politically that a lot of their fan base didn't agree with. And then it just became viciously uncool to own a Cybertruck. And I would potentially still own one because I think that the product is that good. But I just love that for other reasons, right? It's just ridiculous. It's over the top. And yes, that has its own set of problems. Like, does one person need to own 8,000 plus pounds of truck? No. But at the same time, like, that's ridiculous in a fun way. The Cybertruck is ridiculous in just a not so fun way. I don't know how else to put it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Huge thank you for watching my goofy little editorial, and I'll see you in the next one.